consideration, and even the handheld is not behaving too well.
Consideration possible action resolution number R 2017-165, resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland, Texas, placing on the agenda of September 18th, 2017 and September 25th, 2017 City Council meetings, consideration of the proposed fiscal 2017 through 2018 budget, and setting the public hearing on the budget for September 5th, 2017.
Second.
That was for item number 3.
Oh, sorry.
No,
that was one.
That's item number 1, okay. But we have a motion on that? Do we have a second?
Yes.
We have a second. Council, staff report.
Thank you, Mayor.
That works, and I don't.
He's got it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Hello?
do they do?
So. You've got to bend halfway in between.
Hello?
So tonight we have 3 agenda items. The first, as was mentioned,
Mentioned is the required council action to publish the meeting dates for September and the public hearing dates. This is really an administrative action. This first one that does not affect the rates or the budget itself. It is simply directing that
required public notices get made, so we'd ask for your consideration on
this
this
one.
one.
Okay. Council, have any question on the staff report? At this point? Hearing none, Councilmember Carbone, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ardno?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
And Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
We do have a motion and a second on the floor, and the secretary has recorded that in the record. Moving in our agenda to item number 2. Can y'all hear me pretty well back there?
Yes, sir.
I usually talk to the back of the audience anyway. Moving in our agenda to item number 2, which is council input discussion number 2 for fiscal year 2017-2018 budget. And I'll ask our city manager to present the staff report on that item.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hello? All right, so we had our first budget meeting last Saturday. Council was very diligent as we presented all the various city funds and went through the various implications and opportunities for the upcoming fiscal year starting October 1. Council asked a lot of questions. We recorded those and sent that list out to you early last week, and then want to thank staff again for their diligence. We turned that around last week, and Friday we sent out the list of follow-ups. So if I could, I think it'd probably be best if I could just go through the 17 topics that were asked for and were included in your packet. And then I believe, Mayor, you said you'd like to have some public comment, and then we'd get into the council discussion about any of these that you wanted. First off, we provided tax rates from comparable cities. I would provide some additional commercial properties in that, and that was numbers 1 and 2. And then number 3 was the comp and class implementation. We do have and have had recommended budget taking that study that you saw in June, I believe, or July. And this budget has getting our positions up to 95% of the medians for our pay plan in this FY18 budget. And that would kick in mid-year, April 1, 2018. So that would get all of our positions within 5% of the averages on that pay plan. And there's additional options in there that were described for 100% alternatives, but we planned to achieve that in future budget years, getting to 97.5, hopefully worst case next year, and then 100% the following year. And so there's some information there that's described. And I think Ms. Graham wanted to give you some more highlights on the comp and class before I go on to number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. As Mr. Pearson stated, we did have a meeting on July 24th where the comp and class presentation was presented to council. At that presentation, you guys were given some different scenarios of the comp pay plans. There were a couple that were discussed that I reported were a little less desirable than the other two. But I did make it clear at that presentation on the 24th that there would be a formal recommendation as part of the budget process, and that's where we are now. Subsequent to, or previous to the budget meeting on the 12th, you guys were also provided with some information related to other benefits, days off, longevity, vacation, medical benefits, and things like that. Comparing our information to some other localities. So where we stay now is we did complete the compensation and classification study. We are looking at 95% market is what's built into the budget right now. There's approximately $1 million that's being invested on October 1 for a 2% COLA. That's across the board for employees. There is additional monies that are set aside for the police civil service step plan, and then implementing of the comp and class at 95% is approximately about $550,000 citywide for a half-year implementation. So that's implementation April 1 as is built in the budget right now. That 95% of market will allow us to get many positions and individuals who are the furthest away closer to market. And what some of the positions that have the largest difference and that we're seeing the biggest impact, the majority are in our fire department, and then some of our maintenance and labor workers, both in the Parks and Recreation Department and in our Public Works Department. So I know there has been a little bit of discussion about our ability. We want to be able to recruit and retain individuals into the organization. So I wanted to provide you with a little information related to that, especially as it relates to our civil service positions. Over the last 2 years, we have hired in 28 officers, 10 of which were certified when we hired them. And those that were certified represent 6 different jurisdictions that they worked in prior to coming to employment with the City of Pearland. And then in that same time frame, we have lost 15 officers have left the organization. Some of those have retired, but none of those that we are aware of in the last 2 years have left for employment with a competing agency. Some have retired, some have left police work, but none that we're aware of have left for a competing agency. So we have not experienced negative recruitment or retention as a result of our current pay plan. So wanted to share that information with you and let you know we are implementing the plan to the best that the budget can provide at this point, and I'll be, I'm sure, be able to answer any questions that we have that come up later.
Thank you. The fourth item that we followed up on was the debt service fund. That's got some extra implications and frankly complications this year, and just a function of the calculation that we got back from Missouri County Appraisal District and the rates that they gave us based upon information we gave them on our debt service. Bottom line, to keep our debt service rate going down a little bit, we had to commit some of the fund balance, and we tried to explain in the follow-up information why that is. There's requirements that we have to recognize as frozen value and basically assume that we're not going to get any of that. But to compensate for that, we committed these other dollars to lower the rates on the debt service side. We think that's high confidence it's going to give us an opportunity next year to do more of what we've done in terms of retiring some of the higher interest rates and defeasing that when those numbers come in at mid-year. So in some ways it's a win-win in that we're able to lower that debt service rate and put us in a good position to defease some of the debt for mid-year during the budget. We also provided water and sewer rates with surrounding communities. What's in there? We gave you some background information on the municipal PEG channel. Those are dedicated special funds. We've got a lot of funds that money comes in from a specific source and can only be used for restricted areas, and municipal PEG fund is one of those. We are deploying those as much as we can, particularly for the build out of City Hall and getting us the hardware. We can't use that for operations. It's only going towards the physical improvements. Judge Farney provided information about an additional associate judge that will give them a little bit better coverage and take some workload, particularly weekends, off of the rest of their team. Another complicated thing was the credit card fees. There's a lot of explanation in there. And we introduced this at white paper last February. We got direction. As we've gotten into this and gotten into the year, it is complicated. We saw some information in there about we're not able to charge a fee for recurring costs, et cetera. So if we do get some different direction, we appreciate that here tonight. Motor pool fund, that's just a big number to try to get after, and so we suggest discussion and maybe require a motion to get us started at least with the maintenance and a small down payment on that to help even that out for the future. Park Development Fund, we gave you a recap of the various fund areas in which those funds that, again, can come in and only can be used for specific purposes. We're going to try to, as early as Monday, with the Independence Park Development, makes recommendations to make use of those. There's a discussion question about the library, advancing that, a new library on Shadow Creek Parkway. And if we did that, we need to dedicate and have some additional monies available for engineering design in upcoming 19. So again, get some discussion and vote on that. We provided a lot of good information about water rights and future wells and subsidence districts and Missouri County's version of subsidence district, just to give you a comfort level and information based upon our future water. We have a major effort that we're committed to with the Texas Water Development Board to swap out all of our water meters and provide these advanced meters. So we've got the rollout for that, communication plan detailed in there. And we listed the certificate of obligation projects and the upcoming CIP, just so you have a sense of those. For 18, there's some design work for fire stations to get us in a position to be able to build those and improve our coverage and response times, and of course with the Citygate study. Legislative update was a big issue that we're really uncertain of. This first, hopefully last special session has ended. There was no additional revenue caps that were imposed upon the city. However, annexation did come down, and there's significant requirements to come into effect December 1. That's we're going to take some serious strategic looks at in terms of our future plans and services. And again, as early as Monday, we're going to ask you to take a look at some of those areas. There was a request subsequent for property tax revenue over the rollback rate that we gave you, and then another request that came in subsequent for homestead exemption information, recap of we already do have an exemption for homestead. So just be clear, there are several items on here. If we can get some policy direction or decision, I think that'll help all of us in terms of closing issues. But there are 2 separate public hearings and 2 additional record votes in September for the tax rate and the budget itself in September before we have to adopt it. So, Mayor, that's a quick perusal through the 17 issues, and like I said, I think you wanted to invite some comments before we turn it back over to council.
Okay, thank you. What I would like to do is at this point, is to move down in the agenda to item number 3 from citizen comments. And we have 3 individuals that would like to speak at this point, starting with John Despain, if he is, I saw John a while ago, there he is. Thank you for being here tonight, sir.
Good to see you. Do I need to speak louder, or do the microphones not work?
Yeah, speak loud.
Speak
I'll
loud.
speak loud, I can do that.
Set an example.
Maybe not. Mayor, some people in here know me, I don't think you will do it. I'm trying to gather my thoughts real quick, because I thought,
Test.
I don't know if you want that either. I'm trying to gather my thoughts here real quick, because I thought I was angry on August 12th. But I'm even angrier now after what I've just heard. First of all, let me start off. And I will get on script real quick, because I know my guys will tell me, please get on script and stay on. But one thing I want to point out is, it appears the city of Pearland has now stooped to a new low, at least in my opinion. First, city council meetings have been planned to be held here to the renovation of City Hall for a long time, and preparations were done. There have been numerous city council meetings, special meetings, and other workshops held here. Then last week, as word started getting out about trying to get employees and citizens to attend tonight's meeting, the fire marshal's office comes out here and does an occupancy survey. This building has been open for 7 years, somewhere in that time frame. That has never been done. Now all of a sudden, last week, it miraculously needs to be done. And then we have a fire marshal here tonight with a clicker counting heads. In my 14 years of service with the city, of all the times I've been at city council meetings with a full city council chamber, there has never been a fire marshal counting heads. Could it be because city leaders do not want the employee's voice being heard? Could it be because city leaders do not want the citizens to hear the truth? I'll leave that up for each person to decide. And as you heard in a portion of the presentation, city officials, at least in my opinion again, are trying to discredit the civil service employees because we're the most vocal. Why was civil service brought up just a while ago in presentation? Because they're trying to discredit us because we've been up here speaking this whole time for all the employees. You can put my glasses somewhere. Oh my God. Okay, now get back on script. Bring everyone up to speed on how we got here today. The Pearland Police Officers Association for 2 years has been providing a compensation survey comprising of 8 local agencies to city leaders, and for free, I might add. About 6 years ago, the city council at that time stated they wished to move the police officers to 3rd on the list, and at that time, we were sliding in between the 7th and 8th position. About 4 years ago, the city council accomplished their goal, and we were number 3 on the list. We were thankful to the city council for listening to the facts and taking actions. Also, one of the obstacles we had to overcome was being told the city may pay less, but our benefits are better. So I compiled a benefit survey between Pasadena, Sugar Land, Baytown, and Pearland, which clearly showed Pearland's benefits package were average to below average. A few years ago, the city of Pearland came up with the catchphrase, the Pearland way, and that is intended to mean excellence. In this year's budget, we see catchy phrases like, in short, we help people build and live their lives, achieve and sustain a world-class municipality status as a premier suburban community, to serve the cities of Pearland, to serve the citizens of Pearland and create an environment in which people want to live, work, and play. I guess the wording of excellence and helping people build their lives do not apply to city employees. Now we're in 2017, and the result of the compensation survey, which was scheduled to be presented at the first of the year, is presented to City Council on July 24, 2017. It was said during the presentation that 92.5 and 95% of market, which is average, was not recommended due to employee retention and morale. And just to reiterate, there was just a presentation saying, oh, we haven't lost any employees or civil service employees. What does that have to do with the compensation survey? Why, if at that time 95% or 92.5 and 95% was not recommended due to employee morale and retention, is that acceptable now? So at the time, my officers and the employees of this city that I spoke to were feeling good going back when that presentation was made, thinking finally something is going to be done. For those who do not know, city employees are feeling dejected and not appreciated. It should say something to city leaders. After the last 2 times that I spoke to city council about this issue, I had city employees telling me, thank you. Thanks for speaking up for us, because they won't listen. Let me be perfectly clear. City employees are not asking to be number 1. We're not asking to be the highest in the state. We are only asking to be paid average, market, midpoint, whichever phrase you wish to choose. During last year's budget presentation, it was said that money was set aside for mid-budget pay adjustments based off the survey. However, to the delay in the survey being presented, it never happened. What happened to that money that was set aside? In May, when I was informed of the compensation survey, in May when I was informed the compensation survey had been completed, the PPOA did an open records request. When I received the compensation survey, it struck me as odd that Baytown and Sugar Land were not included. I mentioned this during a meeting in August, and I later received a telephone call saying Sugar Land was included, and it was sent to me in an email. I compared it to the compensation results that I had received and noticed that Sugar Land had been later added. The results also lowered the market average by about $400. I find it odd that I'm informed the compensation results are complete, receive the results, and later the results get altered. So the 2017-2018 budget offers a 2% on October 1st and brings employees up to 95% on April 2018. I wish someone could have taken a picture of the shock and confusion on my face when I read that. I looked for the fine print to say this was a joke, but could not find it. I also checked to see if there was a follow-up plan, and there was not. Luckily, on August 12th, during the budget workshop, it was mentioned there was no plan. Then last week, a plan was presented. October 1st, 2017, 2%. April 2018, 95. April 2019, 97.5. April 2020, 100%. The key phrase here is, if funds are available. Additionally, 97.5 and 100% of market will be based off the 2016 survey. We will be in the same boat in 2020, and then what will the excuse be? All this is a stall tactic, as we have seen before. The main issue here, this is not a new problem. And we have been trying to get it addressed for years with no avail. We are leery on promises made by the city because they never seem to develop. I might add, looking at the budget concerning the tax rate, it says 0.68. The budget is estimated to raise more revenue from property taxes than last year's budget by $3,995,624, or 6%, and of that amount, $2,045,254 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year. Let me be perfectly clear on this. This is not a money issue. It is a priority issue. This proposal is a Band-Aid fix to shut the employees up for another year. In closing, to reiterate, we're only asking to be paid market rate based on the city's compensation survey and based on what is right for the employees. We are also asking that the city develop a common sense policy to ensure this does not happen again. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Holloman. Lynn. Joined up, I believe. Thank you for being here tonight, sir.
No, thank you, I don't trust it. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Len Holloman. I'm a retired Senior Chief Petty Officer, United States Navy, and a commentator. I don't have the facts and figures that Mr. Spain has. I just have what I consider common sense. I'm here to speak not at the request, but on behalf of your employees, in particular, your emergency services personnel. First, the firemen, the ones that run into the buildings that are on fire to save life and property. Who go put out car fires, afraid that they're going to blow up in their face, but they do it anyway. EMS people, well, I don't know how many times I had to pull one out from in front of looking for blood instead of where they should be going at an accident scene. Who know when they're given CPR that one of the first responses of the person receiving the CPR is to vomit up into the mouth of the person that's giving it to them. How delicious. I'm speaking for these people because I think they're not getting a fair shake. They are asking for a pay increase not to top dollar, which they deserve every dime of, but only up to the average of what everyone else is getting, also known as fair. Last year, when Officer Panya was killed, I heard a lot of senior people in the city, some sitting at this table, saying what a sacrifice he made, how he was taken too young, and we honor what he's given, okay? Time to own up to that. Words are cheap. Okay? It's a sad state of affairs in this country now that cops are at risk simply for putting on a uniform, sitting in a patrol car and writing a report for somebody to come up and cap them in the head. It's a sad state of affairs, but it's a liberal cancer that's growing in this country. And it's not here yet, but understand it's on the road with its thumb out. They shouldn't have to go through that, but they do. And every day they put on that uniform and say, okay, I'm going to risk it because I got a job to do. And here they are, every day out there doing it. It's up to you guys to compensate them for that. What can you do? Put a magic shield in front of them that will never let them be harmed? No, you cannot do that. What you can do is make it worth their while. Compensate them fairly, not below standard, fairly, not above standard, not high dollar, not extravagantly, fairly. I voted for some of you folks, not all of you, but some of you, including the last two that just had an election here in the runoff. And I was proud to do so. And I made sure that I was at the polls bright and early. But who can be elected in can also be elected out. And when the time comes, I promise if you do right by these guys, I'll campaign for you. I'll speak up for you. If you don't, well, I'm your blueberry. I will do just the opposite. I don't want that to seem like it's a threat. It's just a consequence of possible actions. Do the right thing. That's what you're supposed to be doing. It's not hard. Well, sometimes it is. But just do it. We depend on you. You're fixing to have an agenda where you're fixing to raise my taxes. No?
Tax rate goes down. I'm sorry, we can't comment.
All right. I was looking at the sheet back there when I signed in, and I saw item 2 said, well, property tax. So, and I'm not scared to pay a little extra if it means it's gonna go to the right people. Okay, I thank you for the time, I yield.
Kevin Collins.
I'm Kevin Collins. I'm a resident of Pearland, employee of the city for over 12 years. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Pearland Professional Firefighters Association. And I'm here to speak on behalf of not just my members, but I represent all city employees. The city hired a company to conduct a compensation study over the last couple of months. The results were released. The results were relatively clear from the study, and they showed that nearly across the board, Pearland city employees did not meet the market minimum wage covered, the market minimum average covered and compared by similar cities. Spirits were high from the results, but when the city started to produce their own pay plans, they did not match. They did not match what the study showed. In some cases, still falling short by some positions up to 17% what was recommended. And this is just at the minimum level. This resulted in confusion and more questions. When we contacted HR, we received no response, and the questions kept coming. This is why we have come here tonight, to give y'all maybe some things to think about as y'all vote in this new plan. Fact number 1, most public safety employees work 2 to 4 extra jobs just to make a decent living for their family. The Pearland Fire Department is not different. From battalion chiefs to fire marshals, to the firefighters, paramedics riding on the ambulance and fire trucks. This is happening. Every day, this is happening. International Association of Firefighters just released a study revealing that 1 in every 5 public safety workers will develop some form of PTSD or some type of emotional crisis due to on-the-job experiences. We see the worst of the worst. And naturally, the more places we work, the more we are exposed. Fair pay means we are exposed to less, and which promotes quality family life, healthier employees, and increased employee productivity. This all aids in employees' retention, longevity, and also benefits the city and the citizens that we have. Fact number 2, the proposed pay plan in the budget at minimal level is below what the survey says minimum market value is for positions. This study was about employee retention and attracting new employees. If we pay people what the expert study says is below market value, then we will not retain, nor will we attract quality employees. Fact number 3, the study is already a few months old, and by the time we implement this current plan fully, the study will be over 2 years old. If it is decided now not to come up with market average, we would definitely not be market average in April of 2019, and we will be less competitive in the market. We understand that money does not grow on trees. We do. We're public safety workers. Money doesn't grow on trees. But if we want to continue to grow as a city and provide the citizens with the best coverage possible and the best quality employee we have to be willing to spend more money. I do not believe I'm the only citizen that feels this way. Lastly, in closing, I'd like to say I work with some of the most dedicated men and women that I've ever had the pleasure of serving with in the city of Pearland. And this statement includes all city departments, as I believe we are all one team. They are dedicated and loyal to Pearland and the community we serve. So now all that we are asking is for Pearland to be loyal to us. Being paid a wage that has been identified by the expert study as fair market value for each employee and the job that is performed is a great way to show loyalty to the employees of this awesome city. And all I ask is please consider this information when discussing and making decisions on the city's pay plan. And I thank you for your time.
Good, appreciate that. I use my mayor's prerogative to move these 3 individuals on item number 3, public comments, up to this point. And they represent the Police Officers Association and personal citizens position and the Pearland Professional Firefighters Association. Appreciate y'all's comments. let's get back to business now on item number 2, which is council put discussion regarding discussion number 2. And Clay, I'd like to take these and have the council respond to the comments that you made previously. And starting with Councilmember Carbone, if you have any comments or questions regarding the presentation that the city manager has presented, I'd like to hear about it.
Are we gonna take these one at a time?
Yeah.
Or all at once?
I'm just going to go down my list here.
All in one.
All right, thanks for the additional information. A couple things that jumped out. The comparable tax rates were one of the highest tax rates in surrounding cities. When you look at the water and sewer rates, we're the highest, and we're projected to increase again this year, another roughly 10%, and continue to increase in the future. So I don't know that raising tax is any higher than the proposed budget is the answer. At some point, I think we need to have an in-depth discussion on the credit card convenience fee. I don't know that's equitable the way it is right now. I don't know if we want to go into that detail tonight.
I'd be pleased to just provide some general comments. I think you saw the information in the packet there. In order for us to be able to implement that, we are going to need a little bit more time. As you are aware, when we implemented the ERP, specifically related to utility billing, we had some issues with implementing that, and part of this conversion to a separate credit card fee was based on the successful implementation of that. What we're recommending is that we move forward with utility billing, with permit fees, with court fees, and animal control fees during the first quarter of this fiscal year. There's still some issues that we have to resolve with the different merchants and the service that we provide. We feel like we need to, it needs to be a flat fee across the board, so it's not different depending on as flat as we can make it, or as so that it's the same on all the different services. And we still need time to look into our different providers. So what we're recommending is that give us the opportunity to continue to work through that process, and then we'll bring something back to you during this first quarter. What we want to do first is, if in fact the budget ultimately is approved and the revenue increase for the water and sewer is implemented, we want to move forward with that first, and then after we make sure there aren't any issues there regarding the ERP, then we come back with the details on how we would implement the credit card fee.
So to clarify, we'll see the details and have the opportunity to look into that before that gets implemented?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The homestead exemption, I don't know why that, or I guess that was requested to be added at the end. That in my opinion, just forces more of the tax burden onto the commercial payers, which are exposed because they don't have the homestead cap and some other exemptions anyway. So never was a fan and won't be a fan of increasing that. And I guess to speak to the elephant in the room, it comes down to priorities, and I mean our people are the priorities. I know there's, even on this slide, there's different language that says we have to raise the rate to get to 100%, and I don't believe that. It comes down to where do we want to spend our money, and I want to see a budget that keeps it at 68 cents and gets to the 100%. Got a couple ideas, willing to listen to the rest of the council, but I think we're looking at a budget, and we kind of we're somewhat backed into a corner, and now the easy solution is to raise taxes. The tougher one is gonna be to figure out where we can cut, what can we do to get to, not above average, just to get to average. And in that comp and class study, I still have some questions on that. There's a few line items that just don't make sense. When you look at some of the firefighter and specifically the paramedic classification, they're comparing to cities that have both firefighter and paramedics. So that to me, when you look at it on the face, we're paying our paramedics 64% below market. Are we below market? Yes, but just from what I can tell on the surface, that doesn't look like 64%. I know we aren't implementing this till April at the soonest, but we need to spend some time and dig into that, because I think there's a lot of surprises that have been hit with this study, and somehow we need to digest those and make sure that what we're calling market really is market, and get to where we need to be, which I believe is 100%. And that's all the comments I have for right now, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm okay with this plan going forward at the 0.68 cent tax rate. I do feel that the pay is something that is a priority, and that if we're not able to get to 100% by this April, that we need a priority plan, not just a plan. We need to make it a priority before we budget for anything else, that we get to that 100% mark before the 2020. With that being said, are there some cuts that have to be made to get us there? Yes. I'm not sure what those cuts are in the coming budget, but there's a few things that I see in the budget that could be cut out. But if we cut those out, it still doesn't get us to where we're at, where we need to be. So I'm okay with a step approach to this, but sooner than later, and to make sure that we have a priority listing on the budget for the pay before we do anything else with the budget. We'll start doing budget again, what, February timeframe? So that needs to be priority one on that budget in February. And the reason I'm okay with doing a stepped approach to this is because we didn't get to where we are overnight, and we're not going to get to where we're going to need to be overnight. It's going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take some cuts, and I'm okay with trying to get there by 2018. But I think we could get there by 2018 at the latest 2019. But there's going to be sacrifices that have to be made. That's all I have for now, Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Reed?
So besides, well, first the addition of the municipal judge, I'm definitely in favor of that. It's not going to cost us anything, and if it does, it's going to cost us very little. But I've spoken with our municipal judges, and right now weekends are an issue for them. I think everything else from the tax rate and the tax bill, you know, I'm fine with. A comment was just made about leaving it at 6.8 and working out the 95% or changing it to 100%. Look, I'm 100% for our people. Without our people, we don't operate. Without our people, there's no reason for me to be sitting here. There's no reason for any one of us to be sitting up here, right? I think we have a great city. I've spoken highly of this city, and I'll continue to speak highly of this city. At the same time, I know averages and numbers change. Every person in here knows averages and numbers change. They go up, they go down. So it just really kind of depends on what's going on at the time, how our economy is doing. I'm not going to sit, I don't think that there's a possibility of us changing to 100% and essentially cutting off our nose to spite our face, immediately with this budget. However, I'm willing to stay where we are as far as our tax rate is concerned, and be at that 100%. I'm willing to go to 70. Councilmember Owens can tell you that 6-7 years ago we were at 92. 82. 82. And now we're at, around 70, hovering around 70. We've gone up, we've gone down since I've been on this council, for different reasons, but, to say that, yeah, we can do this with this 6.8 right here today in the next couple weeks with everything that we budgeted for, with the Linwood folks, with just the different needs of this city that have come over the past year, over the past 2 years, over the past 7 years, to say that we can do that and maintain status quo and, pay our people the way that they should be paid, the way that you all need to be paid, and meet that 100% mark with this 0.68, I don't think it's going to happen. And I think Councilmember Orno may have some additional things to add, but ultimately, we keep trying to say that as a council, yeah, we're going to cut taxes or we're going to go down in taxes as the county consistently. And I said this last year, the county and the school districts continue to raise their tax rates on our homes. They continue to put out bonds, and we're paying for that. But yet, it's the city that gets, the bite, and it's because I actually don't know why it is. I mean, you don't pay most of your taxes to us. You pay most of it to the school district, to the county, and so, like I said, I'm more than willing to go to a different number for tax rate wise, 0.7. If that's what it takes to get the job done. But I'm not willing to sacrifice our budget for this year on what we've already committed to. 7 years ago, 2007, there was a bond that came out, and we promised the voters that we would perform on this bond. 8 years later, I get elected to council, we still hadn't done anything on this bond. 10 years later, we're just now doing stuff, and the cost of doing business has gone up. The cost of equipment, all that kind of stuff has gone up. So I'm not saying that, I don't want to get you all to 100%. I do want to get you to 100%. I want to get you to 110%. Hell, if no one ever left the department or any part of our city staff, that'd be great, because retention, when you start working with the same people, you get used to the same people, you form that family, and you keep that community alive. But I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you and tell you that we can do it with this budget, and we can stay at 0.68, and we can take from here and there. There's so many other things. We're still short on this budget. We're still not meeting what we could be meeting with this budget. So, to say that, yeah, 0.68 will get us there and we can move some stuff around, that's hard pressed. Now, Councilmember Moore just mentioned a graduation plan or a gradual plan to get there. I'm all for that too. If we make this priority over the next few years, but you know what's going to happen in the next few years? Average is going to change, because numbers constantly fluctuate. In the next couple years, 2020, you may be above average at where you're at right now. But like I said, I'm open. I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying possibility. but I'm open to listening. I'm definitely for going up, increasing the tax rate if that's what needs to be done. That's all I have, Mayor.
Last year our budget rate was 68 cents. We're looking at 60 cents. This six, and we're looking at something that a lot of cities are having problems with today, and we're growth rate. We're sort of planning. We thought we were going to have twins, and we're going to have quintettes. We have people coming in that we hadn't anticipated at the rate. We have to serve them. They have the right to come in parallel. They have the right to build, to meet our standards. And I think the 68%, 60% is something that we can what we can live with here. So 68 used to be 68.12. We're below the rollback rate already. But you have to remember that trying to maintain a city that keeps growing at the rapid rate we're growing today, 5,000 to 8,000 people each year, and trying to do it with 48 square miles and another 12 22 square miles out there, they give us 70 square miles in our city. We're gonna have this problem for a number of years because we just happen to be a city that everybody wants to come to, live and work and play. And we've got to serve those people, and we're trying to serve them the best way we can. And I'm not happy if we're not the best city around by service. I think we need more roads, we need more parks, we need more employee benefits, we need, if we had to go ahead and annex some property that we're gonna have to annex pretty soon, we're gonna hire more police officers, more first responders. And that's something we have to work with and understand. And each one of them wants more parks, they want more good roads. It's just, there's just so much money that's available to do all the things we have to do. So it's kind of like the family that starts out, thought they're gonna have twins and they wound up with quintettes, 5 kids instead of the 2. But we're making do, and I think we have a quality city and we're making some good progress. It's just, we just can't do it overnight, but we're trying to do it as fast as we can. And to get a different version of this, probably I'll ask Councilmember Ordino to share his thoughts on this.
Here we are. This is my sixth budget.
Yeah.
Nice
budget.
And my last budget. I wish I could tell you I was upset by that. It's bringing me a little solace at this point. Before I get into that, I do want to apologize. We're not supposed to make comments during public comment, and I apologize for my outburst. I shouldn't have done it. What I've been saying for the past 5 budget cycles is fairly simple. When you look at the tax rate for the city of Pearland, not the revenue, not what your tax bill says, because remember your tax bill is the tax rate on the value of your home, and that's where we get into some arguments. Is a tax increase an increase on the rate or an increase in the overall bill? Well, for me, it's the tax rate. I don't control what the property's worth. That's the county, that's the appraisal district. You know, I've had people come to me and say, Frisco's a nicer city than us, it has a lower tax rate. Yes, it also has twice the evaluations. If I double the price of your home, I have no problem with cutting your tax rate by 20%. You know, it's the state, in my opinion, has made it a more complicated system than it should be. The wording on this piece of paper on the next agenda item, I think, just makes it even more complicated. As Reagan said, you know, the worst words to hear in the English language is "I'm here from the government and I'm here to help." I think the state has made this process so complicated that it causes more problems than it's ever done good. But we talked about an 82-cent tax rate. I can remember a tax rate of over 90 cents. We can also look, and there's been a tax rate close to 60, possibly under 60 at one point. So in a fairly short period of time, because I'm 43, that 90-cent tax rate was somewhere around the age of 20 for me. We've gone from 90 cents to at one point under 60 for a tax rate. What we were told was growth would fix it. The additional growth will bring that revenue in that we need. Well, if you were here for the first budget presentation or the second one, I love our little dollar that staff comes up and shows you where your taxes actually go. 60% go to pay off debt. Well, when any of us, or one way, if your income's reduced, which the lower tax rate, in my opinion, to reduce the income to the city, one solution is take out the credit card. And that's basically what we've done, in my opinion. We've gone out, we've used debt to finance what we should have been financing off a tax rate that was higher than what we had that would have given us cash on hand. So now we're sitting about 60% of what we bring in property tax pays off debt. Next biggest chunk is first responders. thank y'all for your service. Thank all city employees for their service. As I've stated multiple times, without our public works department, we don't have water, we don't have roads. I love the police and fire department, but without water and without roads, they have issues. It's hard to get anywhere, it's hard to put out a fire. So it takes everyone in the city to get us to the point we are and the great city that we are. I campaigned on a re-election on raising taxes. So if anybody thinks my comments are to get re-elected, like I told people the second time, I said it's real simple. If I don't get elected, what happens? I have Monday nights off. And that's about all that changes in my life. There is a very good chance that I will make a motion to change this to 70 cents. Because that's the only way I see getting to 100% of the comp study. What I can't support is what I have not supported in the past and what I've gotten in trouble on when PD and other departments have asked for additional employees or additional staffing units, is cutting other parts of the budget. Unfortunately, employee compensation is not the only part of the budget that's underfunded. Our streets and sidewalks have been underfunded since I got on council. There's over a 3-year waiting list for repairs. For me, that's just not acceptable. That's money that previous generations have invested in this town that we've refused to maintain. And it's not going to be any cheaper to fix it later. On top of that, I can't support taking a one-time cost. If I fix a water break, if I fix a road, it's fixed for a fairly long period of time if it's done correctly. I can't take that money and put it over into salaries, because when I give staff a pay increase, they're going to expect at least that salary, if not more, the following year. If I add employees, that employee is going to plan on being employed more than 1 year. So I can't take what I view as a one-time cost and move it over to reoccurring costs. For me, that's just not smart budget. Now, by bumping the tax rate up to cover this and not taking money out of our cash on hand reserve fund, I'm not using the right term here, I can't support that either. I work for another government entity here in town. I've looked at the counties. We have the smallest amount of cash on hand as a percentage of a budget of any government agency I know of. I understand that there's a fine line to walk in between a savings account basically and what you spend. I'll be honest, I've never been comfortable where ours is, especially when I look at what the state has talked about doing for the past couple of sessions, came fairly close to doing this time, and I fear will do when they go back into session. They have continued to make it more difficult on local government and honestly blame what I view as their issue and the problem they created with the overall property tax rates. They blamed it on the cities and the counties. When honestly, if you look at it, they used to fund 80% of public education. The state's now down to funding 20 or 30% of public education. As was stated earlier, when you look at your tax bill, independent school district is normally about 50%. All right, let's think if the state shifted 60% more away from local funding into state funding for public education. What would that do for your tax bill? I bet you've never had anybody from Austin ask that question. And I can go on that. There's other issues I have with the way that issue is presented from Austin. But when we look at this, and I would love to hear anything that we can cut, we can move in the budget to get us there so it doesn't need to be a 70%. But again, I won't support one-time costs being moved into reoccurring costs. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever, besides kicking the can down the road, which in my opinion, this body has done for far too many years. And at some point, it's going to hurt us. And I plan on being here the rest of my life. I plan on my kids coming back and living here. I'm not worried about what's going to happen to me in the next 5 years. I'm worried about what's going to happen to this city 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. And the direction I see us going, I'm sorry, in these budget meetings, it's never been the right direction since I've been elected. So those are my comments for right now, Mayor.
About Little.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, unlike my esteemed colleague, this is my first budget.
I'm sorry.
And I'm starting to wonder what I got myself into here. For me, the bottom line is we need to get 100% for these guys. They're out there doing it for us, they're taking care of us, so we need to find a way to take care of them. Whether it's a tax increase, some budget cuts, or a combination of both. If I'm reading the numbers right, it would cost us about another $1 million we've already budgeted for 2018, the $500,000 it takes to implement to 95%. So it looks like another a little over $500,000 for 2019 and a little less than $500,000 for 2020. So we're looking at an additional $1 million expenditure to go to 2020 to 100% now. If we increase the tax rate another $0.005, we're still slightly below the rollback rate. And if I run my numbers correctly, that gets us about $400,000 in additional tax revenue. So if we can't find another $600,000 to cut somewhere in the budget on an $80 million budget, then I think we've got some problems. So I'm looking at, let's do a line by line item review of the budget, and let's find some ways to get these guys what they need. I think that's all I got, Mayor.
Good. Councilman Owens?
Yes, sir. A lot's been said on all that. The first one up there on the, or not on that one, but on the water and sewer we'll look at on there. 2 years ago, we got a 10% increase, then we gave a 15% increase this year, and a 10% for next year, and I don't see that stopping because we borrowed $158 million from the Texas Water Board. So over the next few years, whatever you pay for water and sewer is going to go up almost double what the price is on that. So, but I've always looked at it, somebody smarter than I said one time, it's not the tax rate that's a problem. It's rather it's what you do with the money. We want to get up there. I think, we got, 23 new employees? Budget, we can cut that. By the time you have the prices you pay for 23 new employees, pay for the benefits and everything, you're able to come in with the numbers right. The other thing I ask is for the employees to look at it and go, and I was a city employee one time, 13 years. I left for one of the same reasons y'all discussing tonight. I got tired of getting in the same stream of water along with everybody. And everyone all got the same increase in the city of Houston. But the thing about it is that, we only got so much money. And I think there's other ways that we can look at doing this to come in. If we reach 100% this next year in 18, that's fine. I think that's a good thing to be able to do. But when you look at other cities across the board, everybody, it's hard to put everybody in the same classification. When you look at Pasadena, you look at Beaumont, Baytown, all of those places in there, they don't have a fire department in there. It's all coming from the people towns. But you come in and you talk about raising the price or raising the tax rate, and the mayor of Pasadena told me, said, I have always come on past my door every day saying how much money you don't raise it on the rates on there. So they're financed by different things than what we are. We have a lot of commercial here, but not real big. PDDC is doing a great job of bringing it in. Most of ours is rooftops. What it is, so 120,000 people roughly. So I think there's ways to get to this point through there. I think that you know, there's no doubt about it, the fire and EMS and all city employees especially, is lumped in there together, that there's opportunities for that. Some are saying is, you know, the big concern that I have is actually reoccurring costs. So whatever we approve in the budget this year is the floor for the next year. You know, and if it takes 70 cents a tax rate this year to get where we're going to next year when we start out, we're at 70 cents on the tax rate. And, but, you know, I'm at the age right now, my tax is frozen, so. If we had everybody in here, my tax rate, you'd have a lot of fun over here. So, I mean, those are the things that I look at in a budget, and this will be my 13th budget with the city of Pearland, 13 before with the city of Houston. But the thing about it is, if you look for ways to get the best out of your budget you can. And people always ask me, okay, if we do out these pay raises, does that bring some morale? Most of that's short term, they last 6 months if you're lucky. The morale on there, or you know, is going to raise the productivity through there. What comes back on the other side of the table, what raising the money for the employees. And so, you know, those things are, a lot of them are not measurable on it. In public works, when I was a city that say, okay, well, measure your output for this year. Okay, well, you know, how many autos you're going to build, stuff like that. How many do you know it's going to be out there? And it's a waste of time to do that, is what is occurring. And if y'all been watching the news today, there's a pretty fair sized storm setting out right now in Gus. And the lake up here, it's covering the whole south part of Mexico. And so that could be a very small storm. But, you know, the people that we got in the city are all troopers. You know, they all do good work. And you know, I think that's, I always think it'd be good to take what you do. So, cut it short. I think, you know, I'm there to discuss how we can get to the rate that everybody's looking at, this compensation. My understanding that, and the conversation on this, on that rate, we did reach in there to 100% by 18. Then we'll still be using that rate to come in and evaluate if we're there. So it's not like we're buying one thing at one time, from what I gather on it. But I think first of all, we need to look at things that's within the budget. And see what we can do in those areas there on justification. And vital roles. You know, this is what we got. We're going to get half of it there, but we only need half of it. Like talk about 600,000, whatever. We only be able to be 300 and get to where we want to go. So I'm willing to look at any of those along the way to see where we're at and see what we can do. So that's pretty well the way I stand on it right now. I think, you know, positive for our fire, EMS, all of our other people that's in the police department and the rest of our workers here. Nobody should be felt like they're second class citizens. And so, and I don't think, you know, I would be trying to sit back here at the table if I thought about that. Now, after 10, 12 years. So that's pretty well, Mayor, what I
takes care of you?
Yes.
Clay, you just went through a process of looking at council input discussions, hit it, chart up on the screen. Those were 17 different areas that we were talking about in the first session. And these were some of the areas that we wanted to discuss in detail. And are you getting any input from us on this at this point?
Well, thank you, Mayor. We got lots of input. I guess struggled a little bit. I want to make sure we're not in a position of, putting it all into a box or coming to the last minute. We're having to make some decisions or what have you. And if we got some, request or direction, put together a package that, changed the target for next year at mid-year or full year, so we can give you some choices. That'd be one way to go. at the 6.8, at 6.854, which is the rollback, or something else. So it's really up to you. And we gave you consensus from Saturday was comfort level to 6.8. That's what is prepared. And what your third item is going to set the maximum that you're going to go to. So it's balanced at 6.8, and it makes the significant strides. I think we did we got you that your information and got conservative assumptions, but certainly hope that we've got a plan for updating the plan and getting after that, incrementally and trying to digest that and make sure we can maintain the city's long-term sustainability. So, but if there's some suggestion or direction, I think we've got Monday, a little bit of budget time. We have a full agenda Monday, but then we also have, meetings in September for those for budgets.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Got a couple additional comments or maybe suggestions I'd like to look at. Again, to keep the rate at 0.68, I'd like to look at a scenario of instead of a 2% COLA, going to a 1% COLA and 100% of market at April. I'd also like to look at the 2% COLA and then pushing back to 100% of market later in the year, potentially July, August timeframe. What that does is that, as Councilman Owens says, that forces us to 100% for next year. What I'm afraid is us as a body can sit up here and say, yeah, there's a great plan, and we get here next year and we say, oh, well, let's kick it down the road a little bit longer. I think if we can get to 100% of market, at least later in the year, that shows the employees today we're committed, we're spending the money, and it kind of sets that baseline going forward that we will be at 100% of market. Also, in terms of items to look at, I know we've got some new firefighters coming on board with the continuous onboarding. I don't remember if that's Q2. But I'd like to just maybe have a brief discussion about that next time. Does it make sense? Is there any opportunity there to push back that timing a little bit as we bring on the next new station? Are there any savings there that we can use to get where we need to be in terms of the 100%? But just to be clear, I'm at the 68-cent tax rate, and that is a tax increase.
And if I could just hinge off what Councilman Carbone said, not only plans to get us to the 100% like in his time periods that he specified, but also to get I don't know how to word this, but to keep us so we don't fall behind within. I mean, the study was based in 2016. We're talking about trying to get there in 2018. So I don't want that 2 years to lag. I want us to keep up with that to where we're at 100% for 2018, not 100% for 2016 numbers, if that makes any sense. Did I explain that right?
Yeah, we've got that.
Okay.
We've got what we sent out on Friday, updates to that, and we're trying to get a quote from MAG so we keep that current, and it doesn't do any of us any good if we don't keep that current and then 3 years later we're trying to catch up again real quick. So, as somebody said, we get where we're at, overnight, and we're trying to find a way to build us back up and get us here. That's sort of the idea of the implementation.
In regards to that quote from MAG, I'm not completely sold that I love this comp and class study. So before we go out and spend any more money with them, I'd like to at least maybe bring it back for a little bit deeper discussion. Because that was just one area that I found fairly quick. I don't know what else is out there. But I don't want to continue to throw money at them if it's not good data.
Okay. How many more sessions do you plan for us to have? About 4 or 5?
There's 4 set in addition to Saturday we did and tonight. So there's 4 of them set that we adopted the budget schedule. That's what we looked at.
Good. So we got a lot of talking time left.
Yeah. The only challenge is, we're trying to. It will help all of us if we're closing some issues. I mean, this is the second time, so I understand. I heard some ideas about
some different scenarios. We can react better to that kind of thing. We can show you that and see what you think of that, and then you've got choices going forward.
Mayor, if I may, what our next item states is the maximum tax rate, not the actual tax rate that we can set, just how high can we go. And what I've heard so far, and I'm not a mathematician, but I am better at math than I am at English, just ask any of my teachers, is I don't see how we can get to 100% at the 68, even with the couple of things I've heard brought up. So we're boxing ourselves in with that 68. If that's what we said tonight, that's what we said. It can't go above that, and it has upset me greatly in the past when we've set rates and then we've come back, we've set maximum rates and then we've come back and said, okay, staff, now we need you to do X, Y, and Z on top of this. Well, they've prepared the budget, they've run the numbers, they've shown us what that tax rate is for that budget. When you go in and start messing with that, it's not something, in my opinion, that should be done in 3 meetings. Without any flexibility on the revenue side. So again, I will most likely be making a motion to increase that, and that sets the maximum. It doesn't mean we can't come back and say, okay, we found it. The magic P was under the pillow, and we figured this out, and we can go down to 68. That is still a possibility. But if we say 68 tonight, there is no possibility of going over. Again, the state is tying our hands.
Okay.
Just to kind of put it in perspective, if we did raise the tax rate to 0.7, then $350,000 home's going to see a tax increase of about $70. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. I'm kind of a numbers guy. I am good at math.
Thank you.
Any other comment from council? At this point, Clay, do you have any wrap-up comments on this?
No, we do need the action on that. If you're ready to move on to 3,
okay, ready to
on
move
that
to
for the
3.
maximum rate.
Okay. Let's move in our agenda to item number 3. I'll ask Councilmember Reed to present this for our consideration.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and approval of the resolution to propose a tax rate of 0.68, a property tax revenue increase of 1.94% above the effective tax rate, and placing on the agendas of September 18, 2016, and 2017, and September 25th, 2017, City Council meetings, consideration of the proposed fiscal year 2017 through 2018 tax rate, and setting the public hearings on the tax rate for September 5th, 2017, and September 11th, 2017. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're discussing. Staff report on that.
No, sir. Again, from the discussions, we built this materials at the 6.8, and that is half cent below the rollback rate calculation. And this would set the maximum. You could lower it from this point as we got into the discussions down the road.
Okay.
Mr. Pearson, if I may, just FYI, if that's where you stick on that number, then the resolution will have to reflect the 1.94% above the effective rate. The resolution has a different number in it at 6%. So what you just read would be correct, and the resolution would have to reflect that.
Sure.
So to clarify, if I want to make my amendment, can we get a quick calculation on what that would be?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good.
Because I need that before I make my motion to amend.
Okay. Any further comment from council? We have a motion second on the floor.
Hang on, Mayor. I'm waiting on a number.
Oh, okay.
I've got a question on that. If we said it's at 70, and that has to go in by the law, right? We can't take it beyond that, but we can take it lower than that. Yes, sir. Okay.
And just to be clear, that is above the rollback rate, which we did as well last year. So that does trigger potential for petition, et cetera. But the rollback is above the rollback rate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this would be above the rollback rate. The citizens could petition, put it on the ballot, and vote it up or down, which I will be honest, that's the one place me and the state do see eye to eye. I want the voters to come and say, because I'll be honest, it would make my job up here a whole lot easier. Because then when somebody came to me and said the city needs to do X, Y, and Z, that's fine, but y'all just voted down the tax rate that would do that. So I have no problem with that part, and have stated that for the last 4 years. I've wanted to go above the rollback rate. So I'd like to, are you going to start calling me Trent? I'd like to amend the motion to read consideration and approval of the resolution to propose a tax rate of 70 cents on a property tax revenue increase of 4.94% above the effective tax rate, and placing on the agendas of September 18th, 2017 and September 25th, 2017 City Council meetings consideration for the proposed financial year 2017-2018 tax rate, and setting a public hearing and setting the public hearings on the tax rate for September 5th, 2017 and September 11th, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, which is now an amendment. Is there any further discussion on that amendment?
Yes, Mayor, I think it's wrong. I think we need to stick at 68 cents, get our priorities right, and get to where we need to be. I think with this budget, we kind of got backed into a corner, and with the options that were discussed tonight, I think we can get to the 100% of market at the 68 cent rate. I know we can't go any higher than what the 70 cents that was proposed, but I think it's sending staff to chase their tail. Now they're going to come back and here's a 70 cents, here's a 68, here's a 68.52. I think I would hope that there was a clear consensus at 68 cents, and I think it would make the future meetings that much easier if we get direction at the 68 cent rate now. If not, this is just going to continue these discussions all over the place the next few weeks. And again, this 70 cents is going above the rollback rate. Last year was a historic highest we've ever raised taxes. We're going to do it again this year. That's not what I stand for. It's not what I got elected up here to do. And I think we can work within our 68 cents.
I think our staff has been working for 6 months to get to a budget that we feel like that we can afford, and we can take care of most of the problems that we have facing us. Maybe if you hang it out there. And they arrived at the figure of 68 cents, which I think we ought to stick with.
Just real quick, Mayor, this is just saying that we can go up to 70 cents, because after today, if we vote in the 68 cents, we can't go above it. And so what they're asking for...
They're asking for an option to go up.
Well, an option to go up, so we can include, yes. So just wanted to be...
So I'm not excited about the option to go up.
Understand.
Any other question or comment, Council?
Yeah, it's just my understanding, the reason I stated it all go, is that we set it at 70, and we can't go above that, but we can always go below that and give an opportunity to come in to the Councilman Conwell's got some areas in here that he's concerned about, and I am also. So, I mean, it still gives us a room to come in and negotiate.
Why 70 cents? Why don't we do $1.25, just so we don't cap ourselves?
70 cents from the numbers I've run allow us to do 100% of the comp study without removing funds from the fund balance. That's where the 70 cents comes from. You know, the other interesting thing is, at a Saturday meeting, unless my memory's wrong, and it could be, I raised 3 kids that are all out of the house now, so God only knows what goes on in my head sometimes, as many of y'all can contest to. But I thought there was a consensus that if it took going over the rollback rate to get the comp study done, that we had the consensus to do that. So that's honestly why I made this motion.
Okay. Any other discussion on this amendment? Any further comment? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, we do have motion second on the floor for this amendment.
Councilmember Ortnell?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
No.
Councilmember Moore?
No.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0. Councilmember Perez is absent from the chamber.
Okay, we now are then, have it logged in. 46. Okay, did you get that right? Yes. Okay, that was an amended motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the amended motion at this point? We'll make sure that we get a vote. You got to vote on the amended motion. We have motion second on the floor for the amended motion. Mr. Secretary?
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ortnell?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
No.
Councilmember Moore?
No.
Motion passed 4-2. Councilmember Perez absent from the chamber.
Okay. At this point, I took the mayor's prerogative to let 3 individuals speak before. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to feel moved to expound on your position at this point? Would like to speak? I think you have 3 excellent speakers, and appreciate you having that. With that information in the record, let's move down to item number 4 on our collective agendas, which will allow me to, if I can find my gavel, here it is. I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8 o'clock.